Lisa Martinez wiped down the last table at Joe's diner with a tired sigh. Her feet hurt from standing for 12 hours straight, but she could not complain. She needed this job. She needed both of her jobs, actually. The morning shift at the grocery store and the evening shift at the diner barely paid enough to cover rent and food for her and her little brother Tony. The rain outside made soft tapping sounds on the big windows of the diner. It was almost 9 at night on a Tuesday, and the place was nearly empty. Only old Mr. Parker sat in his usual corner booth, reading his newspaper and drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Lisa did not mind the quiet nights. They gave her time to think and rest her tired legs. She looked at the clock on the wall. 1 more hour until closing time. Tony would be waiting at home, probably doing his homework at their small kitchen table. He was 17 and smart, much smarter than she had ever been in school. Lisa wanted him to go to college, but she worried about the money. Their mother, Elena, had always said education was the most important thing, even when they barely had enough to eat. Elena had died 2 years ago in a car crash. She was driving home from her night job at the nursing home when another car ran a red light. Lisa still missed her mother every single day. Elena had worked so hard to take care of them, sometimes working 3 jobs at once. She never complained and always made sure Lisa and Tony felt loved. The bell above the door rang, and Lisa looked up to see a man walking in from the rain. He was tall and wore an expensive-looking dark suit. His hair was gray at the sides, and he looked to be around 50 years old. He was not the type of person who usually came to Joe's diner. Most of their customers were workers from the nearby factory or people who lived in the neighborhood and did not have much money. The man looked around the diner with careful eyes. He seemed nervous or maybe just tired. Lisa grabbed a menu and walked over to him. "Good evening, sir. You can sit anywhere you like," she said with a smile. Her mother had taught her to always be polite to customers no matter how tired she felt. The man chose a booth near the back, away from the windows. He sat down slowly and looked at the menu for a long time. Lisa gave him a few minutes and then walked over with a coffee pot. "Can I get you some coffee while you decide what to order?" she asked. "Yes, please, black coffee," he said. His voice was deep and quiet. When Lisa poured the coffee, she noticed his hands. They were clean and soft, not like the hands of men who worked with tools or machines. He was definitely not from this neighborhood. "Take your time with the menu, sir. We have good apple pie tonight if you like dessert," Lisa said. The man looked up at her then, really looked at her face for the first time. Something strange happened in his eyes, like he was seeing something that surprised him. He stared at her for several seconds before speaking. "Apple pie sounds good. I will have that and just the coffee," he said. Lisa nodded and went to get his pie. As she cut a large slice and put it on a plate, she wondered about the man. He seemed sad about something. She had learned to read people's faces working at the diner. Happy people, angry people, lonely people. She could usually tell what kind of mood someone was in just by looking at them. She brought the pie to his table and set it down carefully. "There you go, sir, enjoy." "Thank you," he said. Then he added, "What is your name?" "Lisa," she answered. Customers sometimes asked her name, especially the regular ones who came in often. "Lisa," he repeated softly, like he was thinking about something. "That is a nice name." Lisa smiled and went back to cleaning tables. The man ate his pie slowly and drank 2 cups of coffee. He kept looking at her when he thought she was not watching. It made her a little uncomfortable, but he did not seem dangerous. Just sad and maybe a little confused about something. Around 9:30. The man reached into his jacket pocket to get his phone. As he pulled it out, his wallet came out too and fell to the floor. Cards and papers scattered under the table. "Oh no," he said, getting down on his hands and knees to collect everything. Lisa hurried over to help him. "Let me help you with that, sir." They both reached for the scattered items at the same time. Lisa picked up some credit cards and what looked like business cards. Then her hand touched a small photograph that had fallen face up on the floor. Lisa's whole world stopped. The photograph showed a young woman with long dark hair and bright brown eyes. She was smiling at the camera, and she looked happy. The picture was old and worn, like someone had carried it for many years and looked at it often. The woman in the photograph was her mother, Elena Martinez, but younger than Lisa had ever seen. Her, much younger, maybe in her early 20s, but it was definitely her mother. Lisa would know that face anywhere. Lisa sat back on her heels, holding the photograph with shaking hands. She looked up at the man, who was still collecting his things. He had not noticed yet that she had found the picture. "Excuse me, sir," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. The man looked at her. When he saw the photograph in her hands, his face went completely white. "Sir?" Lisa said again, louder this time. Her heart was beating so fast she could barely breathe. "Why is my mother's picture in your wallet?" The man stopped moving. He stared at Lisa, then at the photograph, then back at Lisa's face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Lisa stood up slowly, still holding the picture. "This is my mother, Elena Martinez. She died 2 years ago. Why do you have her picture?" The man got to his feet too. He was much taller than Lisa, but he looked scared, like she was the one who frightened him instead of the other way around. "Elena," he whispered, and the way he said her mother's name made Lisa's chest feel tight. "How do you know my mother?" Lisa asked. Her voice was getting stronger now, even though her hands were still shaking. The man looked around the diner like he wanted to run away, but then he looked back at Lisa's face, studying every detail. "You look just like her," he said softly. "You have her eyes, her smile." Lisa felt tears starting in her own eyes. "Who are you? How did you know my mother?" The man sat down heavily in the booth, like his legs could not hold him up anymore. "My name is Richard Stone," he said, "and I think I might be your father." Lisa stared at Richard Stone like he had just told her the world was flat. The words hung in the air between them. "I think I might be your father." She felt dizzy and had to hold on to the back of the booth to keep from falling. "That is impossible," she whispered. "My father left before I was born. My mother said he was gone and never coming back." Richard's hands were shaking as he reached for the photograph that Lisa still held. "May I?" he asked softly. Lisa looked down at the picture of her young mother and then handed it to him. Richard held it like it was made of glass that might break if he touched it too hard. "I took this picture 24 years ago," Richard said. "Your mother was 22 years old. We were at the park near the college where I was studying business. She had just finished her shift at the hotel where she worked cleaning rooms." Lisa felt her legs give out and she slid into the booth across from Richard. "You knew my mother when she was 22? "I knew her for 2 years, Richard said, still looking at the photograph. "I loved her more than I have ever loved anyone in my life." Old Mr. Parker had left while Lisa was not paying attention. The diner was completely empty now except for the two of them. Lisa looked at the clock and saw it was past closing time, but she did not care. She needed to hear what this man had to say. "Tell me about her," Lisa said. "Tell me about my mother, when she was young." Richard looked up from the photograph and studied Lisa's face again. "She was the most beautiful person I ever met, inside and out. She worked at the Grand Hotel downtown, cleaning rooms during the day. At night, she took classes. At the community college, she wanted to be a nurse." Lisa's heart jumped. She always talked about wanting to be a nurse. She became a nursing assistant, but she never finished school. "She was so smart," Richard continued. "She helped me with my English papers because writing was hard for me. I was good with numbers and business ideas, but Elena could write beautiful sentences. She made everything sound better." "Where did you meet her?" Lisa asked. "At the hotel. I was working there too, in the kitchen washing dishes. It was the only job I could find that paid enough to help with college. One day Elena came to the kitchen for cleaning supplies and I spilled soapy water all over her uniform." Richard smiled a little at the memory. "She just laughed and said accidents happen. Most people would have been angry, but not your mother." Lisa could picture this. Her mother never got angry about small things. Even when Lisa and Tony made messes or broke something, Elena would just clean it up and move on. We started talking after that, Richard said. I would wait for her breaks and we would sit in the hotel lobby and talk about everything. She told me about her dreams of helping sick people. I told her about my ideas for starting my own business someday. What kind of business? Lisa asked. I wanted to build things. Houses, office buildings, bridges. I had plans to start a construction company. Richard looked sad. Your mother believed in my dreams even when I did not believe in them myself. Lisa thought about all the times her mother had encouraged her to dream big, to want more than just getting by. Elena always said that dreams were free, and everyone deserved to have them. We dated for almost 2 years, Richard went on. I thought we would get married after I graduated from college. I was going to ask her, but then everything changed. What changed? Lisa asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Richard was quiet for a long time. He kept turning the photograph over in his hands. A man came to see me. He owned a big construction company in California. He had heard about some of my ideas from one of my professors. He offered me a job, but I would have to move across the country right away. Lisa waited for him to continue. It was everything I had dreamed of, Richard said. A real job with a real company, good money, a chance to learn from people who had been in business for years. But it meant leaving Elena. Did you talk to her about it? I tried to. I asked her to come with me to California, but she said she could not leave. Her mother was sick and needed her. Her younger sister was still in high school. Elena was supporting both of them with her job at the hotel. Lisa felt tears starting in her eyes. This sounded like her mother. Elena always put other people first, even when it cost her something important. So what happened? Lisa asked. We started fighting, Richard said. Not big fights, but small, ones that hurt more. I was working longer hours to save money for California. Elena was working extra shifts to help her family. We barely saw each other anymore. And then? Richard closed his eyes. Then Elena told me she needed space. She said we wanted different things and maybe we should stop seeing each other. She said I should take the job in California and not worry about her. Lisa felt angry suddenly. So you just left? I tried to change her mind, Richard said quickly. I went to her apartment, but she had moved. I went to the hotel, but they said she did not work there anymore. I called her friends, but no one would tell me where she went. She was hiding from you? I thought she just did not love me anymore, Richard said. I thought she had decided I was not worth fighting for. So I stopped looking and moved to California. Lisa stared at him. You gave up? Yes, Richard said simply. I gave up. It was the biggest mistake of my life. They sat in silence for several minutes. Lisa tried to imagine her mother at 22, in love with this man, but having to choose between him and her family. It sounded like something Elena would do. She would sacrifice her own happiness to take care of the people who needed her. I never forgot her, Richard said finally. I built my company. I made more money than I ever dreamed of. I married another woman years later, but it did not work out. We divorced after 5 years. I kept thinking about Elena and wondering what my life would have been like if I had stayed and fought harder for her. Why did you keep her picture all these years? Because she was the only person who ever loved me for who I was, not for what I could give her or what I might become. She loved me when I was just a poor college student washing dishes. Lisa felt something break open in her chest. She never told me about you. She just said my father was a good man who could not be part of our lives. Richard looked up sharply. She said I was a good man? Yes. She never said anything bad about you. She just said sometimes people have to make hard choices. New tears ran down Richard's face. I never knew she was pregnant with you. If I had known, I would have come back. I would have found a way to make it work. Lisa believed him. She could see the pain in his eyes, the regret that had been eating at him for 24 years. She struggled, Lisa said quietly. She worked so hard to take care of me and Tony. We never had much money, but she never complained. Tony? My younger brother. He is 17 now. Richard wiped his eyes with his hand. I have a son too? No, Lisa said. Tony's father was different. Mom met him when I was 6. He left when Tony was 5. Richard nodded slowly. So she raised both of you alone? Yes, she was the strongest person I ever knew. They looked at each other across the table, this father and daughter who had been strangers an hour ago. Lisa felt overwhelmed by everything she had learned. Her whole life story had just changed in one evening. What do we do now? She asked. Richard carefully put the photograph back in his wallet. I do not know, he said honestly. But I would like to get to know you, if you want that too. Lisa thought about her mother, about all the nights Elena had worked late to pay their bills, about all the dreams she had given up. Maybe this was not what Elena would have wanted, but Elena was gone now, and Lisa had to make her own choices. I would like that too, she said finally. For the first time since he had walked into the diner, Richard Stone smiled. Lisa did not sleep that night. She lay in her small bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Richard had told her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's young face in that old photograph. She tried to imagine Elena at 22, in love with a man who had dreams as big as her own. At 6 a.m, Lisa got up and made coffee. Tony was still sleeping. He did not have to be at school for 2 hours, and she did not want to wake him yet. She needed time to think about how to tell him that their father had walked into the diner last night. But as Lisa sat at their small kitchen table with her coffee, she realized something important. Richard was her father, but he was not Tony's father. Tony's father was a different man, someone who had left when Tony was just a little boy. This news about Richard would not change Tony's life the way it was changing hers. Lisa looked around. Their tiny apartment. The walls needed paint and the kitchen faucet dripped all the time. The couch had a big rip in it that they covered with a blanket. But it was clean, and it was home. Elena had worked so hard to keep this place for them. She thought about Richard in his expensive suit, talking about his construction company and all the money he had made. Lisa felt angry again, but not at Richard exactly. She felt angry at life, at the way things had worked out. Her mother had died working night shifts to pay rent while Richard became rich in California. Tony stumbled into the kitchen around 7:30, his hair sticking up in all directions. He was tall and skinny and looked younger than 17, especially in the morning when he was still sleepy. You are up early, he said, opening the refrigerator to look for milk. I could not sleep, Lisa said. Bad night at the diner? Tony asked. He poured cereal into a bowl and sat down across from her. Lisa watched her little brother eat his breakfast. She had been taking care of him for 2 years now, ever since Elena died. She made sure he did his homework and ate good food, and had clean clothes for school. She was only 6 years older than him, but sometimes she felt like his mother. Tony, she said carefully. Something happened last night. Something big. Tony looked up from his cereal. What kind of something? A man came into the diner. He had a picture of Mom in his wallet. Tony stopped eating. What do you mean? Lisa told him everything, about Richard Stone, about how he had known their mother 24 years ago, about how they had been in love but circumstances had pulled them apart. Tony listened without saying anything, his eyes getting bigger and bigger. So this guy is your dad? Tony asked when Lisa finished talking. Yes, I think so. But not my dad. No. Your dad was someone different, someone Mom met later. Tony nodded slowly. He had always known that he and Lisa had different fathers. Elena had explained it to him when he was old enough to understand. You going to see him again? Tony asked. I think so. He wants to get to know me. Are you going to ask him for money? Lisa was surprised by the question. No. Why would you ask that? Tony shrugged. He is rich, right? And we are not. Maybe he could help us. Lisa thought about this. It was true that they needed money. Her 2 jobs barely paid enough to cover their basic needs. But something about asking Richard for money felt wrong to her. "I do not want his money," she said finally. "I want to know about Mom. I want to understand what happened between them." Tony finished his cereal and put the bowl in the sink. "Just be careful, Lisa. Rich people are not like us. They do not think the same way we do." After Tony left for school, Lisa called in sick to her morning job at the grocery store. She had never called in sick before, but she needed time to think. She also needed to go somewhere she had not been in a long time. The cemetery was quiet and peaceful. Elena's grave was in a section for people who could not afford fancy headstones. The marker was small and simple, just her name and the dates of her birth and death. Lisa had brought fresh flowers, yellow ones because they had been Elena's favorite. She sat on the grass next to the grave and talked to her mother, the way she used to do when Elena was alive, and they were both too tired to talk about important things during the day. "Mom, I met him," Lisa said quietly. "I met my father. His name is Richard Stone, and he loved you very much." A bird landed near Elena's headstone and looked at Lisa with bright black eyes. "He kept your picture for 24 years, Mom. He never forgot you. But I do not understand why you never told me about him. I do not understand why you let us struggle when he might have helped us." The bird flew away, and Lisa was alone with her thoughts. She remembered Elena coming home from work late at night, so tired she could barely stand up. She remembered the nights when there was not enough food, and Elena would say she was not hungry, so Lisa and Tony could eat. She remembered Elena crying quietly in the bathroom when she thought the children were asleep. But she also remembered Elena reading bedtime stories, even when she was exhausted. She remembered Elena helping with homework at the kitchen table, making Halloween costumes out of old clothes, singing while she cooked dinner. Elena had never acted like taking care of her children was a burden. Lisa stayed at the cemetery for 2 hours. When she finally left, she felt calmer but still confused. She drove to the diner early for her evening shift. Richard was already there, sitting in the same booth where he had sat the night before. He looked like he had not slept either. His expensive suit was wrinkled and his hair was messy. "Hi," Lisa said as she walked over to his table. "Hi," Richard said back. "I was not sure if you would want to see me again." "I was not sure either," Lisa admitted. "But I have questions." "I have questions too," Richard said. Lisa poured him coffee without asking if he wanted it. Then she sat down across from him. The diner was empty except for them. "Tell me about her last years," Richard said. "Tell me about Elena after I left." Lisa took a deep breath. "She worked all the time. She had 3 jobs when I was little. She cleaned offices at night, worked at the hotel during the day, and babysat other people's children on weekends." Richard looked sick. "I could have helped. If I had known about you, I could have sent money." "She was proud," Lisa said. "She never asked anyone for help. She said we were strong enough to take care of ourselves." "What about Tony's father?" "His name was Mike. He was a truck driver. He seemed nice at first and he made Mom happy for a while. But after Tony was born, he started drinking too much. He would disappear for days and then come back like nothing had happened. Mom finally told him to leave when Tony was 5. So she raised both of you completely alone." "Yes. But she was good at it. She made us feel safe and loved even when things were hard." Richard wiped his eyes. "I should have tried harder to find her. I should have kept looking." "Maybe," Lisa said. "But Mom made her choice. She chose to protect you from having to choose between your dreams and your family." "What do you mean?" Lisa thought about how to explain what she was starting to understand about her mother. "Mom knew you had big dreams. She knew you wanted to build things and be successful. If she had told you about me, you would have stayed. You would have given up your chance in California to take care of us." "I would have," Richard said immediately. "Of course I would have. And you would have spent your whole life wondering what might have been. You might have been angry or sad about the dreams you gave up. Mom did not want that for you or for me." Richard stared at her. "You sound just like her." Elena always thought about other people first. She taught me that, Lisa said. She taught me that love sometimes means making hard choices. They sat quietly for a few minutes. Lisa felt like she was beginning to understand her mother in a new way. Elena had not hidden Lisa's father to be mean or selfish. She had done it because she loved them both. What was she like at the end? Richard asked softly. Lisa smiled for the first time since they had started talking. She was happy. She had finally gotten a job she really loved, taking care of old people at the nursing home. She said it was almost like being a real nurse. She was proud of me for finishing high school and getting jobs. She was proud of Tony for being so smart in school. Did she ever talk about me? Not by name. But sometimes, she would get a faraway look in her eyes and say she hoped someone from her past was doing well and following his dreams. Richard closed his eyes. I wish I could tell her that I did follow my dreams. I wish I could thank her for that. You can, Lisa said. You can live a good life and be happy. That is what she would want. Will you help me do that? Richard asked. Will you let me be part of your life? Lisa looked at this man who was her father, this stranger who had loved her mother so much that he kept her picture for 24 years. She thought about Elena and what she would want. Yes, Lisa said. But we have to do this slowly. I need time to understand everything. We have time, Richard said. We have all the time in the world. Outside the diner, it started to rain again, just like it had the night before. But this time, the sound did not make Lisa feel lonely. It made her feel like something new was beginning. 3 weeks passed before Lisa saw Richard again. She needed time to think about everything, and she was scared. Part of her worried that if she got to know him better, she might start to depend on him. Then what would happen if he decided to leave again? But Richard did not give up. He came to the diner every Tuesday night, the same night he had first walked in. He would sit in the same booth and order coffee and apple pie. He never pressured Lisa to talk. He would just sit there quietly reading a book or looking at his phone, letting her know he was available when she was ready. On the 4th Tuesday, Lisa finally sat down with him during her break. You keep coming back, she said. I told you I wanted to get to know you, Richard replied. I meant it. I have been thinking about what you said, about Mom and about you leaving for California. Richard put down his coffee cup and gave her his full attention. I want to know more about her, Lisa said. About who she was before she became my mother. Will you tell me stories about her? Richard's face lit up. I would love to. So Richard began to tell Lisa about the Elena he had known 24 years ago. He told her how Elena would sneak extra towels to guests at the hotel who had children, because she knew families needed more clean towels. He told her how Elena would study for her nursing classes by reading to the old people who lived in the retirement home next to the hotel. She would sit with them for hours, Richard said. She said they were lonely and just needed someone to listen. Lisa smiled. She did the same thing at the nursing home where she worked. She would stay after her shift ended to talk to the patients who did not have visitors. She had the biggest heart of anyone I ever met, Richard said. Tell me more, Lisa said. Richard told her how Elena loved to paint. She would buy cheap watercolor paints and paper from the dollar store and paint pictures of flowers and trees and sunsets. She was not professionally trained, but her paintings were beautiful because they were full of feeling. I still have some of them, Richard said. She gave me 3 small paintings before we broke up. I kept them all these years. Lisa felt her heart jump. You have Mom's paintings? Yes. Would you like to see them? Lisa nodded quickly. She had never seen any of her mother's artwork. Elena had never mentioned that she could paint. The next evening, Richard came to the diner with a small bag. Inside were 3 small watercolor paintings, each one about the size of a piece of notebook paper. One showed a field of yellow flowers. Another showed a sunset over water. The third showed a small house with a garden full of vegetables. Lisa held the paintings carefully, afraid she might damage them. She made these. She painted the flower field after we went on a picnic outside the city. The sunset she painted from memory after we watched the sun go down over the lake. And the house. Richard paused. She painted that house because she said it was her dream house. Small and simple, but with a big garden where she could grow food for her family. Lisa studied the little house in the painting. It looked exactly like the kind of place Elena would have loved. Simple, but cozy, with flowers in the windows and vegetables growing in neat rows. She never told me she could paint, Lisa said softly. Maybe it was too painful for her to remember, Richard suggested. Maybe painting reminded her of the time when she was young and full of dreams. Over the next few weeks, Richard and Lisa met regularly at the diner. Richard would come in during Lisa's dinner break and they would talk for 30 or 40 minutes. Slowly, Lisa began to feel comfortable with him. Richard told her about his business. He had started with one small construction crew and now owned Stone Industries, a company that built office buildings and shopping centers all over the country. He had hundreds of employees and more money than he could spend in a lifetime. But I worked too much, Richard admitted. I never learned how to stop working and enjoy life. Your mother tried to teach me that, but I did not listen. What do you mean? Lisa asked. Elena used to say that the most important things in life were not things at all. She said the most important things were people and love and making memories together. I thought she was being romantic and silly. I thought success and money were more important. And now? Now I know she was right. I have more money than I ever dreamed of. But I have been lonely for 24 years. Lisa understood this feeling. Even though she and Tony had each other, she often felt lonely too. Working all the time did not leave much time for friends or fun. One evening, Richard surprised Lisa by asking about Tony. How is your brother doing in school? He asked. He is doing really well. He gets good grades in all his classes. He wants to go to college, but we do not have money for that. What does he want to study? Engineering. He is really good at math and science. He builds things with his hands too, just like you did when you were young. Richard looked interested. Could I meet him sometime? I would like to get to know him too. Lisa felt nervous about this. Tony was protective of her, and he did not trust people easily. But she also thought it might be good for Tony to meet Richard. Maybe, she said. Let me talk to him first. When Lisa asked Tony if he wanted to meet Richard, Tony was quiet for a long time. What if I do not like him? Tony asked finally. Then you do not have to see him again, Lisa said. But he is not trying to be your father. He knows your father was someone else. He just wants to be part of our family as my father. Will he try to tell us what to do? I do not think so. He seems to understand that we have been taking care of ourselves for a long time. Tony thought about this. Okay. But if he acts like he is better than us because he has money, I am leaving. That is fair, Lisa agreed. The meeting happened on a Saturday afternoon at a small park near their apartment building. Richard brought a basketball because Lisa had mentioned that Tony liked sports. Tony was shy at first, but Richard did not try too hard to impress him. They just threw the ball around and talked about school and Tony's plans for the future. Lisa tells me you want to study engineering, Richard said. Yeah, if I can afford it, Tony replied. What kind of engineering interests you most? Tony's eyes lit up as he started talking about building bridges and designing roads. Richard listened carefully and asked good questions. Lisa could see that Tony was starting to relax. After an hour, Richard had to leave for a business meeting. He shook Tony's hand and thanked him for spending time together. He seems okay, Tony told Lisa as they walked home. He did not act like, we should be grateful that he talked to us. What do you mean? Some rich people act like they are doing you a favor just by being nice to you, but he did not act like that. He acted like he was grateful that we gave him a chance. Lisa realized that Tony was right. Richard never acted like he was better than them, even though he had so much more money. He acted like he was the lucky one getting to know them. A few days later, Richard made an offer that surprised Lisa. I have been thinking about something, he said during one of their Tuesday night talks. You mentioned once that you always wanted to open your own restaurant. Lisa nodded. It is just a dream. I do not have money to start a business. What? If I helped you? Not as charity, but as a business partnership. You would run the restaurant and I would provide the startup money. We would share the profits. Lisa stared at him. You would do that? Your mother always believed in following your dreams. I want to help you follow yours. I do not know anything about running a business, Lisa said. I do. I could teach you the business side, and you already know about food and taking care of customers. Lisa felt excited and scared at the same time. Opening her own restaurant had been her biggest dream for years, but she had never thought it could really happen. I need to think about it, she said. Of course, take all the time you need. That night, Lisa lay in bed thinking about the offer. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, but another part of her was afraid. What if the restaurant failed? What if she disappointed Richard? What if working together ruined the relationship they were building? But then she thought about Elena. Her mother had always encouraged Lisa to dream big and work hard. Elena would want Lisa to take this chance. The next Tuesday, Lisa gave Richard her answer. Yes, she said simply. I want to try. Richard smiled, bigger than she had ever seen him smile. Then let's start planning your restaurant. For the first time since Elena had died, Lisa felt like her future held real possibilities. She felt like maybe dreams could come true after all. 6 months later, Lisa stood in front of a small empty building on Oak Street, holding the keys to what would soon become her restaurant. Richard stood beside her, smiling as she tried to unlock the door with shaking hands. I cannot believe this is really happening, Lisa said as the door finally opened. Believe it, Richard said. This is your dream coming true. The space was small, but perfect. It had big windows that let in lots of sunlight, and it was in a neighborhood where working families lived. Lisa could already imagine families coming here for dinner after long days at work, just like the customers who came to Joe's diner. What are you going to call it? Richard asked as they walked through the empty dining room. Lisa had been thinking about this for weeks. Elena's Kitchen, she said. I want to name it after Mom. Richard's eyes got watery. She would love that. The next few months were the busiest of Lisa's life. During the day, she worked with contractors to fix up the restaurant space. Richard taught her about business licenses and food suppliers and how to manage money. In the evenings, she still worked at Joe's diner to pay for her and Tony's living expenses. Tony helped too. He was good with tools and spent his weekends painting walls and fixing broken tiles. He had warmed up to Richard completely, and now called him Richard instead of Mr. Stone. You know, Richard, Tony said one Saturday, while they were installing new light fixtures, Lisa is really good at this business stuff. She is smarter than she thinks she is. Richard smiled. She gets that from your mother. Elena was smart about everything, but she never bragged about it. Tony had started calling Elena your mother when he talked to Richard, even though Elena was Tony's mother too. It was Tony's way of sharing her memory with the father who had missed so many years. Richard had framed Elena's 3 watercolor paintings and hung them on the walls of the restaurant. The little house with the garden hung right by the front door, where everyone would see it when they came in. It looks like she is welcoming people to her home, Lisa said when she saw where Richard had put the painting. That is exactly what I was hoping for, Richard replied. As the opening day got closer, Lisa felt more nervous and excited every day. She had hired 3 other people to help her. Maria was an older woman who had worked in restaurants for 20 years and would help Lisa cook. Jake was a young man who would wait tables and wash dishes, and Susan was a part-time worker who would help during busy times. Lisa had spent weeks creating the menu. She wanted to serve the kind of food that made people feel good. Homemade soup, fresh sandwiches, pasta dishes that reminded people of family dinners, and desserts that tasted like someone's grandmother had made them. Richard offered to pay for a big grand opening party with advertising and flowers and a band, but Lisa said no. I want to open quietly, she said. I want our first customers to be regular people from the neighborhood, not people who came because of fancy advertising. That sounds like something Elena would say, Richard said. On opening day, Lisa was so nervous she could barely eat breakfast. She got to the restaurant at 6 in the morning. Even though they would not open until 11, she checked everything 3 times. The stoves, the refrigerators, the cash register, the tables and chairs. At 10:30, Richard and Tony arrived. Richard carried a big bouquet of yellow flowers, Elena's favorite kind. For good luck, he said, putting them on the counter. Tony handed Lisa a small wrapped gift. This is from me, he said. Inside the wrapping paper was a picture frame. Inside, the frame was a photo of Elena that Lisa had never seen before. Elena was wearing her nursing assistant uniform and smiling at the camera. She looked proud and happy. Where did you get this? Lisa asked. I found it in Mom's things, Tony said. I have been saving it for something special. I thought today was special enough. Lisa felt tears in her eyes as she put the picture on the shelf behind the counter, right where she would be able to see it while she worked. At exactly 11 o'clock, Lisa unlocked the front door and turned the sign to open. She had worried that no one would come, but within 10 minutes, the first customers walked in. An older couple who lived down the street ordered coffee and pie. Then a woman with 2 small children came in for lunch. By 1 o'clock, half the tables were full. By 3 o'clock, there was a line of people waiting to get in. Lisa was so busy cooking and serving that she barely had time to think about being nervous. Richard stayed all day, not to interfere, but just to watch. He washed dishes when Jake got behind. He refilled coffee cups when Susan was busy taking orders. He acted like any family member would act, helping out during a busy day. At 8 o'clock, Lisa served the last customer of the day. She was exhausted but happier than she had been since Elena died. The restaurant had been full almost all day. People had complimented the food and said they would come back. We did it, she said to Richard and Tony as they cleaned up. We really did it. You did it, Richard corrected her. This was your dream and your hard work. That night, Lisa sat in Elena's kitchen by herself after everyone else had gone home. She looked at her mother's paintings on the walls and the photo behind the counter. She thought about Elena working so many jobs to take care of her children, never complaining, always encouraging Lisa to dream big. I wish you could see this, Mom, Lisa said out loud. I wish you could see that your dreams came true too. Over the next few months, Elena's kitchen became popular with families in the neighborhood. Lisa hired 2 more people to help, and they had to start taking reservations for Friday and Saturday nights. Richard came in every Tuesday for dinner, always ordering something different so he could try everything on the menu. Sometimes he brought business associates who were impressed by the food and the warm atmosphere. Tony started working at the restaurant on weekends and after school. He was saving money for college, and Lisa was proud of how responsible he had become. One evening, while Lisa was closing up, she found Richard sitting at the corner table looking at something in his hands. It was the old photograph of Elena, the one that had started everything. Do you still carry that everywhere? Lisa asked, sitting down across from him. Every day, Richard said. But now I look at it and feel grateful instead of sad. Grateful? Grateful that Elena loved me enough to let me go follow my dreams. Grateful that those dreams led to success that I can now share with you and Tony. Grateful that I got a second chance to be part of a family. Lisa reached across the table and took her father's hand. Mom would be happy that we found each other. Do you really think so? I know so. She always said that love finds a way. Richard carefully put the photograph back in his wallet. What would you think about expanding? Maybe opening a second location? Lisa laughed. Let me learn how to run one restaurant before I think about 2. Fair enough. But I want you to know that whatever you want to do, I will support you. You are my daughter and I am proud of you. Outside the restaurant, it started to rain just like it had that first night when Richard walked into Joe's diner. But this time, neither Lisa nor Richard minded the rain. They had found their way home to each other. Elena's kitchen became more than just a restaurant. It became a place where families gathered for celebrations, where neighbors met for coffee and conversation, and where Lisa and Richard and Tony built the family that Elena's love had made possible. And every day the painting of the little house with the garden welcomed people to Elena's kitchen, just like Elena herself would have done if she had been there to see her daughter's dreams come true.